And we're really live this time. I'm here with Boy Wonder, Connor Long. He's a Jets, Mets, and Nets fan, so I had to have him on. We're going to get into an interesting tweet that NetsFrequent, popular Nets Twitter, had posted. But before we get into that, I want to introduce Boy Wonder, Connor Long. Tell them where they can find you and what you got going on.
Gary, first off, really appreciate having me. My name's Connor Long. If you guys do not know, I cover the New York Jets for Jets X Factor and my own podcast, New York Flight. Jets Talk. Along with that, I do cover University of Colorado football along with New York Giants football for the league winners. But, like Gary said, Mets, Jets, and Nets fan, that's the Bible right there. Let's go.
Colorado, that's interesting. Deion Sanders used to live about 10, 15 minutes from me. He just sold his house.
Wow,
so I
that's
guess
cool.
He's not coming back. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, but they so funny. They put, oh my God, since they're now so focused on their social media stuff, during practice, instead of just having the number like for Shedeur Sanders 2 on the back of their jersey,
Yeah.
And the last name on top, they put their Instagram handles on top. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, I did see that.
Oh,
and if you're
yeah.
interested in buying a $20 million estate near me, Mark Teixeira is still selling his house. And he can't get anyone to buy it. He's been selling it for years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right. So I want to get into this interesting tweet that NetsFrequent put out. We haven't talked about it yet, so I'm going to be getting your first takes on this. We're going to go one. I know you got other commitments, so I'm going to try to rapid fire through this. But let's get to the first one. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. According to NetsFrequent, who I'm a fan of, says the Nets should deal Cam Johnson, DFS, Bogdanovich, and Schroeder for additional draft capital. Your thoughts on that?
So I'll go player by player here. Cam Johnson, I mean, it really, at this point, you just have to get rid of him and just like take any value you could really get from him. Because I look at him right now, and I think he's just gonna keep, that snowball's gonna keep rolling down that hill. So I think that's a guy they just want to kind of get off their plate as soon as they possibly can. You look at a guy there like DFS. I'm personally a fan of DFS, but you look at a guy like him. The Nets are currently trying to tank right now. I mean, this guy is kind of at the back half of his career. He's gonna want to go and whether he's playing to 20 minutes a night or 10 minutes a night, he's gonna want to go out and kind of be a part of a winning culture towards the end of his career. And I completely understand him for that. So yeah, I agree with dealing DFS. However, he has done a lot of good for the time he's been with the Nets. In terms of Bojan, I know last time you had me on about 2 weeks ago, we had the discussion about do you think we should trade him if he's taking away minutes from players like Jalen Wilson? Absolutely, but I think he's a guy that we kind of start off on the team in the beginning of the season, and then if it doesn't work out, we deal him. I kind of want to see how Jordy Fernandez and Juwan Howard, all the assistant coaches, kind of come up with that rotation where they balance playing the young guys along with the veterans like Bojan. In terms of Schroeder, I mean, he looked fine last year. I'm not gonna cry if they trade him. So, I don't like disagree with any of that stuff. It's just the only one I'd want to test out Bojan.
So I'm gonna respond. We got a couple follow-up questions for you. But first, Addison brings up a fair question. Do Net fans like their logo? I like it. Connor, your thoughts?
Honestly, I've never thought much about it. It's just I think of I look at that logo, I think of having KD, Kyrie, and Harden for what was it, 21 games total? 21, I think it was
23 or 20. I think it was
20.
It was in the low 20s. Yeah.
I think of that, and then now here we are. But if the Nets can get a new logo, sign me up. It'll embark a new chapter for the Nets, if you will.
I like the old school ones, the Jersey ones, the red, white, and blue basketball, and the one with the little cutout of New Jersey. I like those better. But
I like the city, those like city classic, whatever they're called, the alternate jerseys they had going like 2 seasons ago. I think the ones they had last year were disgusting with like the big letters.
About the gray ones they had that said Brooklyn on the front? Or
yeah,
those were dope. They should bring those back.
I really like those. Yeah, those. So the logo and stuff that doesn't really catch my eye when I think of the Nets.
See, you were brought over to the Nets when, I mean, kind of still young, but just when they got KD, Harden, and Irving, that was what took you. Yeah, when I was little about that age, probably a little younger, they got Kenny Anderson, Drazen Petrovic, and Derek Coleman. So it was that big three that suckered me in.
Three of the best in Nets history. I mean, just look at those 3 guys. Yeah.
All right, so I want to ask you first. There's been trade offers. Cam Johnson. And they're in serious talks with Cleveland for Isaac Okoro. And what I'm understanding is 2 second-round picks. The Nets want more capital than that. Would you make that trade, Cam Johnson for Okoro and 2 second-rounders, or would you hold out for something better?
I like Okoro because, he's not too small, but he's kind of shifty too. I've noticed that in his game. So I do like Okoro. 2 second-round picks and Okoro for Cam Johnson, a guy who the Nets just signed on that lucrative 4-year, 80-something million dollar deal or whatever it was, 70, 80-something million dollar deal. I mean, sign me up. You bring me, like I said, kind of a shifty. I wouldn't really consider him a combo guard, but a shifty guard like Okoro, and then along with 2 second-round picks, which I think is fine capital, that kind of balances, being somewhat of a competent franchise right now, and then also still trying to build for the future. Adding, he's been in the league for a little now. I wouldn't quite call him a veteran, but some experience.
I agree. I like the trade. I think Okoro has upside. I don't want to say tremendous upside, but he's a great athlete. His stroke has gotten better. He's still not a shooter, but it's gotten better every year. His percentages have gone up, so that's a good sign. I like Okoro. I would make that trade. The other trade, Cam Johnson to San Antonio for Keldon Johnson and second rounders. What trade would you prefer? Keldon Johnson or Okoro?
Okoro.
I know Keldon Johnson personally. We have an interest in the same boxer in San Antonio. I would love to have Keldon Johnson.
That would be cool. That would be cool for you. That would be cool for you.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where it's like the skill level side. I mean, that would just be so cool if like you had a guy that you knew personally play for one of your favorite teams. I mean, that's just doesn't get much better than that.
Well, you'll get that. You'll meet enough players in your career coming up, especially with the Long Island Nets. You'll meet them, and like when they make it up here, you'll know them. DFS, I think you can get a first rounder for him. I would look to move him quickly. Both Bojan and Schroeder, I would try to honestly keep them. Look, at least till the deadline. Bogdanovic had this same role with Detroit last year, and he was fine with it, right? Like he was the veteran on a horrible team that was losing last year. So I feel like you got to have some veterans. You can't have a total fake ID club, right? Like you can't have everyone under the age of 25. You got to have some veterans. And Schroeder, I don't think has any value. I don't think you're getting much for him. So I'd rather just have his experience in the locker room than get a second round pick for him. And Bogdanovic, same kind of thing. Like his contract's not great for what he produces now. I would keep those two and look to trade the other two guys. That's what I would do. I still feel like you got to have some veteran leadership on the team. And I would look to keep Bogdanovic because he's been in that role, and Schroeder because I don't really think you can get anything for Schroeder at this point.
Yeah, Schroeder, when I think of Dennis Schroeder, I think of him turning down that crazy deal from whoever it was, the Celtics, I think it was, that like 1 year.
Yeah, $80 million. It was the Lakers, and he ended up signing
the
with
Lakers.
The Celtics. Yeah.
The Lakers, he ended up signing with the Celtics. I mean, that really, like, oh God, that was crazy. But I mean, yeah, you're not gonna. Well, you really changed your stance on Bojan. Last time I spoke to you about the Nets, you wanted to get rid of him before.
I wanted to cut him and save the money. Yeah, I have.
I also like that he's a former Net too. I like bringing back kind of those. And the 2014-15, I mean, they weren't as bad as this team still. Yeah. Like you said, he played with the Pistons, so he kind of knows what it's like. But he played with the Knicks last year. He was able to kind of witness what a winning culture is like, taking a team like that to that, into a deep playoff run. I hope he could, kind of bring some of that veteran, like you said, presence to these younger players, like a Cam Thomas, like a Jalen Wilson, like those guys.
All right, you want to get to the next one? This is an interesting one. Allow Ben Simmons' contract to expire or trade him at the deadline while taking back a bad contract for future assets. So we have basically a couple of options here, and I'll lay them out. You send Ben Simmons home, like the Knicks did with Stephon Marbury all those years ago, and just say, be gone. Like, we don't want anything to do with you. You'll get paid, just go away. You can do that.
Oh, like a buyout?
Not really a buyout because he's not going to take a buyout. You're paying him to just go away. Just don't come to the arena. Just
don't play.
Just go away. You could do that. You could try to play him, and hopefully he plays well, and you can trade him at the deadline. Or you could try to trade him now and take in a bad contract like Lonzo Ball or something like that. I'm torn. I'll take you. I'm fine with either treating him like Marbury and just being done with him and be like, just sit in your room, don't come up, don't just go away, and you'll get paid. Or I kind of want to play him, see what you can get out of him, and then maybe trade him. Lonzo Ball. If you could trade him for Lonzo Ball, I would do that immediately. Take on Ball's contract, and then I would extend Ball because you could extend Ball, who I think is a good player. You could.
I mean, he was
extend him
great
on
until
the cheap.
those crazy injuries. Like he was like, he had a rough start to his career, and then he actually really started picking it up, and then he just had that domino effect of injuries, and he hasn't been able to see the court consistently in the last 2 to 3 years. So yeah, I agree with you on that. Honestly, at that point, I'm just gonna play him because nothing good comes out of, like you said, doing what the Knicks did with Stephon Marbury and sending him home. Nothing good comes out of that for the Nets. Like, at least if you're playing Simmons, you're getting some sort of production out of him. And people like Ben Simmons, when he was like actually in his you just gotta hope you see like half of what he did in his kind of his heyday with the Sixers. If you really think about it, I mean, he was driving. He played point guard to center. I mean, he's 6'11". He was driving. He was playing defense, getting rebounds, assists, everything. So, if we can, just get anything really from him, it's to the point where it's like you look at everything as a bonus from Simmons. It's like you can't expect anything out of him, but if you get something, it's a bonus.
I agree. Look, when Simmons has played, he's been productive. Even as he's been injured and stuff, like he's not a terrible player. Like he gives you value, which is what makes this so frustrating.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to the next one. My favorite one. Give Cam Thomas the highest usage rate in NBA history. I've been looking at this. This is going to be tough. I also looked at him setting the field goals record, which is not possible because
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain played all 48 minutes, and it was a really fast-paced game. So it's like that's not going to happen. But I like this. I want him to have the highest usage rate in the NBA this year. Let's tap the brakes on history and let's say, do you want Cam Thomas to have a 35 usage rate? Do you want him to have a similar usage rate as Luka or Harden did in his prime or Kobe did in his prime? Do you want him used that much? If not, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. Who should he pass the ball to?
Honestly, why not use him? Why not use him as much as possible? I mean, he is the only hope. Like you have like I said, you have the pieces like Claxton, but I mean, he is supposed to be the commander in chief, if you will, of this Nets offense. Like he is supposed to be that complete player. Shoot, and his shooting's been the only really bright spot of his game. I mean, he hasn't been great on defense, but I mean, that's his job to literally shoot the ball. Why not give him the highest usage rate? Kind of. Yeah, I would say give him the highest usage rate.
Look, people are going to have their takes on Cam Thomas. People are going to love him. People are going to hate him. There's a lot to like and there's a lot to hate about Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas can do three things. He can score, score, and score. That's what he can do, right? Like, there's nothing else that he can do. So, we can talk about his salary. What's a reasonable price to pay for him? But this year, he's the only guy that can create your shot, and he's your best offensive player by a mile. So let him do his thing. I mean, like when he has games where he goes 2 for 12, you're gonna lose. But when he can cook, you have a shot. Like he's a special offensive player. He can score 40 on any night. And you don't have anything else like that. So
remember when he had that stretch at the beginning of last year where he scored like over 40 points in the first 4 games? I mean, that was like, but that's another guy. It really depends on like how they play him. Because if you look it up, a coach like Jacques Vaughn, Cam would drop like 35 points one night and then he wouldn't even see the court the next night. So it's like that's why I think this new coaching regime, if you will, is going to be so interesting to see how like Jordy Fernandez, like I said, him and his assistant coaches kind of take this rebuilding roster and see how they utilize him. And I know a lot of people around the league, executives, everything, have really liked Jordy Fernandez. So I'm really interested to see like how he takes this rebuilding Nets team and turns these young pieces into somewhat watchable.
It's I think Marks has done a good job with the pieces that he's added. Killian Hayes, Zaire Williams. These are guys with a little bit of upside who just haven't lived up to their potential. Like these are guys that have some game that they were top 5, top 10 picks in some cases, right? So I like what they've done. Let's get them on the court. Let's see what they can do. I like what he's. I'm not saying they're going to work out. Maybe they suck, and maybe they were jobless, or for a reason. but they have upside. And
Yeah, they're notable names.
yeah,
They're not because they've had success in the league, but they're like notable names. Like an NBA fan knows who Killian Hayes or Zaire Williams are. Like especially Hayes because he was drafted by the Pistons and was supposed to be be that championship winning, lead that team to a championship after a couple more years of rebuilding. Next thing you know, the Nets are signing into like some 1 year. I don't even know how cheap it was. 1 year, some crazy cheap deal. I mean, it's that's like the NBA. I mean, everything can change in 1 year.
Shout out to Tom Ace, Derek Coleman, Drazen Mahorn, and Daly was a fun era. You forgot about Kenny Anderson, my personal favorite, but yeah, that was the team I fell in love with. I was talking to Connor about that.
Yeah,
That was my team. All right, you ready to get to the next one? Because the next one is I think
let's do it.
is obvious. Play Noah Clowney, Day'Ron Sharpe, Jalen Wilson, Keon Johnson, Killian Hayes, Zaire Williams, and Tariq Whitehead. We can debate Whitehead, but the rest of
Yeah.
this for sure is obvious. These are the guys you got to play. This is the year, and next year too, probably to find out exactly what you have. Noah Clowney has a ton of upside. Jalen Wilson was a stud MVP of the summer league. Keon Johnson was a sensation. I think Killian Hayes, he can be a backup point guard in the league. Zaire Williams, I think, has upside too. I think Zaire Williams could be a starter in this league. And Whitehead was so bad in the summer league. I always say, look, at least for the G League season, send him down to the G League. Let him play every day in the G League. If he does okay, then we can start to play him here. But that's not a thought right now. So what are your thoughts on that youth movement and playing those guys in particular?
Well, yeah, I've Clowney. I really like, and my stance on Day'Ron Sharpe. I've talked to you about all the time. I freaking love Day'Ron Sharpe. I mean, I think
And
he,
Jalen
you
Wilson
know,
too.
yeah,
I know,
Jalen.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Jalen Wilson, but here's the thing. He did win Summer League MVP. He deserved it. But here's what I take into consideration. I don't think Net fans could go too crazy about this award because you look at Summer League performances over the years. Trae Young was one of the worst players in the Summer League when he first came into the league. You look at him now. Kevin Knox was one of the best players in Summer League history who won MVP. And there's a big difference there. You look at Kevin Knox, he can't even find an NBA roster right now. He won Summer League MVP compared to Trae Young, who was dropping 4 points a game, 6 points a game in the Summer League when he first started in his career. And he's one of the best players in the NBA.
Well said. I mean, look, I can't really argue with that. You came with strong facts. I mean, what you said is factually true. Kevin Knox was Summer League MVP, and he's not in the NBA roster right now. Like he's been a marginal role player his entire career, and now he's out of the league. But Jalen Wilson showed me, like I saw him. I said, okay, this is Kessler Edwards 2.0. Like that's all this is, right? He's a lot more than that. He's
more than like a
game.
3 and D.
He's more physical. Like he can create his own shot. Like I was really, and he's from my hood. He's from Denton, Texas, which is about 10 minutes north of me.
Oh wow!
So I'm rooting for him. I want him to do well. I looked at him and said, 3 and D guy. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying. But he's more than that. He's at least he showed that in the summer league. And like Connor pointed out, that doesn't always translate as in Kevin Knox. But Keon Johnson too played really well. So
two-way deal. Get him.
Two-way deal.
Well, they signed him to a multi-year deal, but again, I think he was on a 2-way last year. Was he, or was he only G League?
Yeah,
I think he was 2-way.
He played a couple of games, like 3. Like he played like 10 minutes last year.
Yeah, I always say I think the biggest turning point of like where we actually saw the young stars play, and I thought was one of the best games in terms of getting the young players in last year, was the game against the Pacers where we saw Clowney play that well. They end up winning the game and then they get eliminated from the playoffs after winning a game. So I still thought that was one of their best games last year where they kind of saw those young guys really find the rotation.
So we got 3 more. You want to get to the next one? Because the next one's, of
course.
And what do you want to do at Whitehead? I told you we didn't really get to Whitehead. I know. I mean, you couldn't have been impressed with him in the summer league. So your thoughts on Whitehead? It was horrible, man. What are your thoughts? Again, he hasn't really played in 2 years. So your thoughts on Whitehead, and what would you I'll let you put your Sean Marks hat on. What would you do with Whitehead for at least?
I mean, he had a gruesome injury, and those injuries, they do take time to recover from. That's definitely something to know. But again, there have been busts in the NBA, but I mean, this guy was talked of pretty highly. He attended Duke University, which is one of the best basketball schools in the country, and then he gets drafted to the Nets in the first round. you have to put him on Long Island this year. You have to leave him there for the thing is I think the problem with him is that last year they kind of I think they moved him up and down too much. Keep him in one spot the whole year. Let's say he gets to the point where he's scoring 25, 30 points a night in Long Island, he's just dominating the league. Then you think about calling him up, but I mean, I think you got to keep him in one place. And I think they signed Johnson. I think that guy Jacob Gill, the really small guy, the
I
guy
wanted to ask you about that. It's Killian
Yeah.
Hayes. It's Killian Hayes killed Gilliard. Is Gilliard no longer have any role here with the signing of Killian Hayes? I like Gilliard. The issue is he's 5'8" or whatever he is, right? So it's a problem. The signing Killian Hayes, did that kind of end any hope we got of seeing much of Gilliard this year?
You have to watch.
Deal. Yeah.
You have to watch the preseason. That's where I think you're gonna, because it's like that's when they're gonna really tinker with the rotations, and then that's where you're gonna see, okay, the coaching staff is leaning towards this guy rather that guy. But again, the Nets, Sean Marks, Jock Vaughn, not Kenny Atkinson, Steve Nash, those guys over the years, they've made decisions that Net fans least expected. So it's like you can't. It comes to the point where it's like I can't draw any conclusions yet.
Agreed. I mean, look, the story on Dariq Whitehead is not written yet. Like he's not. We haven't written his his life.
It's not like this is like his sixth year with
years old.
Yeah.
Or 20 years old, whatever he is. He was the number
Let's
one
see,
or
I'll
number
check,
two
yeah.
recruit in his class, right? I guess it was 2021 recruiting class. He was 1 or 2, depending on who
He's
you ask.
20. He's 20.
20. He's got a
Yeah.
lot of story left. So I'm not writing Whitehead off. I'm just saying, like, put him in the G League.
Actually, today was
let him play. He hasn't played much basketball.
Today's his 20th birthday, actually. Good thing I checked. Today, Dariq Whitehead turns 20 years old. August 1st, 2004.
Happy birthday, Tariq Whitehead. All right. We got the last 3 here. This one I find interesting. See just how effective a tandem Clowney and Claxton can be. I like this. I want them both on the court. I would not mind them being my 4 or 5 for years to come. But Clowney's got to get more consistent with the 3 so you can stretch him. Now, he can't hit the 3, but he's got to be able to do it consistently and make you respect it. Your thoughts on playing Clowney and Claxton together in big minutes? And would you start both of them? Because I would.
Yeah, I would start both of them. Like I'm a big guy on Day'Ron Sharpe, but I mean, what I saw from Clowney at the end of last year, all the way kind of into the summer league this year, I really liked what I saw out of him.
I mean, Clowney. You got to stretch Clowney, not Claxton. You're not stretching Claxton. Did I say Claxton? I'm sorry.
No, you said Clowney. You were right.
Okay, I did. All right, sorry. Yeah. You got to stretch Clowney. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the 3 ball will definitely come with time. At least he has it already developed. Rather, you look at a guy like Brook Lopez in his time with the Nets. He's shooting in the high 20s, low 30s, barely even shooting the 3 ball. And then he goes to Milwaukee, and the 3 ball is one of the biggest parts of his game right now. So I think it just comes with time. But it's good to see him that he feels comfortable shooting it already. And he played 20 games or something like that last year. So it's only going to come with time.
I would say this to Clowney. Look, this is the year where we want you shooting 3s. Don't get shy on me now. Don't get shy, right? Like, shoot it. Just if you're open, shoot the 3. Don't get shy on me.
Yeah.
All right. So we're both with that. We both want to see Clowney. Mm-hmm. Would you start them both? Would you be willing to start opening day? Would you? I'll let you put Jordy Fernandez hat on. You're starting Claxton at the 5 and Clowney at the 4. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, I just think Clowney could do more than Sharpe, because like Sharpe can't shoot. Sharpe and Claxton they play defense and score in the paint. Like they can't shoot. Versus, like you said, you're trying to get Clowney to elevate him to that next step of like you said, stretching him. So get him those reps he's been looking for right now in year 2. Clowney starter.
I'm with that as well. I agree with Connor on that. I want to see them both start. I want to see the youth movement. I want to see 5 young guys starting. If that means that Bogey and Schroeder have to come up the bench, then that's just what it is. But I'm with starting for most of the season. If you want to, early, if you want to start Schroeder, I get it. But like,
I don't want to. The only veteran I'd start is Bogey. No, because then he's competing with Wilson for minutes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you want Wilson to get the minutes, right? Like that's ultimately the goal.
I think a veteran though who's gonna have maybe Killian Hayes kind of bumped him out a little, but I think a veteran who has a chance to kind of be a little dark horse on this team hasn't been spoken about a ton. Shake Milton. I think Shake Milton has
Shake
the
Milton will get some
potential.
burn for sure. Yeah.
I think he has the potential to be like a dark horse guy where it kind of just comes out of the middle of nowhere in the middle of the season and like actually like brings watchability to the team.
So I want to talk to you about these last two.
Mhm.
They kind of go together in my book. Number 6, select 6 players in the upcoming NBA draft. The Nets have 4 first rounders and 2 second rounders, so they have 6 total picks. And number 7 is use the $100 million. You'll have 100 when Simmons comes off the books and Schroeder comes off the books. You'll have $100 million in cap space next offseason to bring in players that can be flipped for additional assets or absorb other teams' bad contracts for more draft capital. So, okay. Do you want to select 6 players? Do you want to try to package them together and trade for another superstar? Do you want to package them together and try to move down and draft maybe twice or 3 times instead of 6? Initially, when I looked at this, I said that's crazy. I don't want 6 new players on my team. I don't want 6 rookies on my team next year. Like that's not what I want. But now the more like
6 players out of anyone in the draft?
You got 6 draft picks. The Nets have 6 total draft picks next year. And NetsFrequent is saying that you should use all of them. Like it's not trade them, not package them together, not try to move down. But draft 6 players, right? 4 in the first round and 2 in the second. That's too many rookies for me. But like the one thing Sean Marks is good at is drafting. He's not good at anything else. He's not good at trades. He's not good at timing, right? Like if he was good at trading in times, Cam Johnson would not be here. DFS would have been traded last year at the deadline for 2 ones. Detroit offered you a 2026 one for Cam Johnson, and you said no, right? Like, look, any pick from Detroit is always going to be a good pick, okay? Because it's coming from Detroit, and you could have made these trades. So he's not good at trades. Minnesota offered you D'Angelo Russell and Naz Reid for Kyrie. You turn that down to get DFS and Dinwiddie. Like he's not good at making trades. So I don't want him trading. I guess the one thing, if Marks is going to be the GM, I guess just let him make all the picks because he's not good at anything else. So what are your thoughts on that?
The thing I don't like is I don't like going from 0 rookies this year and then like literally didn't have a single draft pick to 6. Yeah, it's like the balance is too off, and then it's like kind of I don't want to get it to the point where it's like okay, we're only playing rookies, kind of similar to what you said there. Like I want to have at least like 2 to 3 veteran guys who actually like see the court and find the court and are involved in the rotation. Like guys like you mentioned Zaire Williams, you mentioned Killian Hayes. Like I want to see those guys play and Bojan. It's not to the point where it's like okay, we're just going gung ho, all rookies, and this is going to be our team, and we're just going to build chemistry with these guys. I want some veterans.
So that brings in the other part. We are going to have $100 million in cap space. Do you want to go after that, or do you want to just fill it with bad contracts and continue to play the rookie, or do you want to try to sign a fringe star guy, an Aaron Gordon, maybe a Bradley Beal? Who else is a Brandon Ingram? There's guys like that. I'm trying to think who's DeAndre Ayton will be available. De'Aaron Fox is obviously the one that people are looking at. Do you want a guy like that? Or Brandon Ingram, De'Aaron Fox, Aaron Gordon? Do you want a guy like that? Or do you want to just continue to rebuild and play the rookies and save the cap space for that megastar when he comes along, that Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving when he becomes available?
Honestly, save the cap space because then because I hate having good players on a terrible team. Like you mentioned, those guys like DeAndre, like that's just more center overload. That's gonna push players like Clowney and don't get me wrong, DeAndre Ayton's one of the best centers in the league. But I mean, like I said, we're trying to get rookies experience here at the same time, kind of balancing that veteran presence. But I mean, signing Ayton's pushing Clowney and Sharp out of the rotation, which is
that was a bad guy. I've just been a guy at that level. That's not the guy you would sign.
100%. I'd rather just save the cap at this point. They've already done so much damage. Just rebuild, save the cap.
I'm gonna throw this one out there. There's a guy I like a lot, Brandon Ingram. He's a free agent at the end of this year.
He's
You're gonna
good.
have 100.
I mean,
You're gonna have to overpay to get him because your team sucks. But I feel like you could get him, right? Like if you want Brandon Ingram, you just like Houston did with Fred VanVleet. Like you want him, you're gonna have to overpay for him because your team's not any good. Would you be willing to overpay to start building around Cam Thomas and Brandon Ingram as your kind of 2-3 scorers? Is that something you think is worth exploring?
Nah, not really.
No,
honestly,
all right.
I'm not Brandon Ingram's very good though. Like what he's shown in his time with the Pelicans, the Lakers, stuff like that throughout his NBA career is remarkable, 1000%. But I want to build around right now. I want to build around Claxton and Clowney. Those are two homegrown players who kind of found their groove in the league. I want to stick with those guys. We just paid Claxton. I'm sticking with those two guys, and then also, like you said, kind of easing the other guys into the rotation as well.
I know if I did sign Ingram, I would sign him. Be like, why the hell did we sign him? But I really like Brandon Ingram. Like, I want to have him on the team. I like his game. He looks to me like a poor man's Kevin Durant. I like everything about him offensively. He can handle the ball. He can defend a little bit. He can shoot the long ball. He's got a mid-range game. And then I know we're gonna get him. I'm like, okay, we just paid $40 million a year for Brandon Ingram, and what does he really do? Right?
Yeah,
it's like an impulse buy, but I still kind of want to do it. Like I kind of want to see offensively how we would look with Ingram and Cam Thomas. But the mature adult decision is probably what you're suggesting. I got one more question for you, and I'll let you go. I know you got other things you got to get to. But I'm gonna let you play Jordy for a minute. Put on your head coach's cap. Starting five. Who you starting, and then who you gonna use out of the 9-man rotation? Who you're starting and who you're using out of your rotation? Who's coming in off the bench?
I wish I had like a good public address announcing voice for this, but I'm starting Cam Thomas. Starting Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton. Those are the two obvious ones you got to get out of the way. Noah Clowney, Cam Thomas, Noah Clowney, Nick Claxton, Jalen Wilson, and then that fifth spot, that shooting guard spot. I think it's kind of between Hayes and Schroeder right now. I'm gonna. He was with the team last year. I'm gonna go with Schroeder. There.
I'm going with the same starting five. Like that's the exact.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you got to understand Schroeder and Cam Thomas in the same backcourt is going to be a horrible defensive backcourt. Are you okay with that? I mean, they're going to get cooked regularly.
They're gonna win like 15 to 20 games anyway. So it's like, why not just like go out? Those are probably, I think, the two of the best shooters on the team. They're gonna generate the most points. They might give up the most points, but they're also gonna generate the most points. Probably cancel each other out. I'd probably just pick those two guys. I'll go with the experience with the Nets, Schroeder over Hayes there. But in terms of the 9, so I have 4 players. So I'm gonna go Zaire Williams, Killian Hayes, Bojan, and Keon Johnson.
You got one more. You got Killian.
Killian Hayes, Zaire Williams, Bojan, and Keon Johnson.
Okay, yeah. We're using the same rotation and starting the same.
We have the same 9 guys.
Great minds think alike. What else can I say, Connor? Yeah, that's the.
We have the same. Oh my god.
Same rotation. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I noticed you didn't name one person. I don't know if it was oversight, but you didn't say Ben Simmons, which was the one I was wondering if I've just disregarded Ben Simmons.
No, I'm not. Actually, no, I regret that. I'm switching.
You want to start Ben Simmons? The team is better. If you start Ben Simmons, the team's better, right? Is that really?
No, I was gonna say I forgot Dayron. I forgot my guy Dayron.
I don't have a spot for him. Look, there's gonna be minutes I gotta use him, but if I can only play 9, but I'll let you. You want to put Dayron in? Who do you want to take out?
No, I'll leave that because I think on the bench I put Keon. Who were, because we had the same 4 on the bench. Keon,
Bogdanovic, Killian Hayes.
I mean, we're going really small there because then once Claxton and Clowney are out of the game, I mean, who's the center there? That's the problem.
I'm assuming Cam and DFS are gone at this point, right? Like that we're working that.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying
that they're gone. Yeah.
Who's gonna be the center?
Well, see, the way I would work it with
Clowney at center, Zaire
I'm gonna put
power forward,
and then
Zaire
basically move my forward to the 5. Right. I don't want to play Claxton and Clowney a ton of minutes together. So my first line, my first subs, I would take Clowney out and then have Claxton play the whole first quarter, and then start the second quarter, put Clowney in at the 5, and rest Claxton, and then sit Clowney and put Claxton in, and try to limit their minutes together is what I would try to
Yes.
do.
Yeah,
All
because
right.
here's the thing: you can't have both those guys off the floor at the same time. Because then it's like,
Right.
okay, you move. Like, I don't think Zaire could really play center because it's like power forward's kind of his spot. You'd have to move Clowney to center. You'd either have to have Claxton or Clowney at center, and then Zaire power forward. But I'm glad we had this. That's crazy that we had the same 9. I thought I was gonna miss someone. That's why I was being very careful as to who I was counting. I thought I was gonna miss like Jalen Wilson or someone like that.
No, you did. You did a great job, and I know
Thank
you did
you.
a great job because you had the same lineup as me. So that's how I know it was good. I know you got to run, Connor. I thank you for your time. I know you're up
Of
against
course.
a hard stop here. Tell everyone where they can find you, and I'll let you go.
Gary, first off, thank you so much for having me again. Love talking Nets. Limited amount of Net fans out there, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we're trying to grow the fan base. So if you're willing to convert, hop on the Nets train. I wouldn't really call it a bandwagon, as they're probably going to win about 20 games this year. But come in for the ride. Hopefully, we'll get Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, someone of that nature, and then turn this team around and to a winning culture and win the first NBA championship the Nets have had ever. First time, one NBA championship. Yep. Come on. Bring it home. Gary, like I said, thank you for having me. Connor Long of NY Flight Jets Talk, my Jets podcast. I'm a writer for Jets X Factor, jetsxfactor.com, JetX Mobile, App Store, Google Play, whatever. And then I cover University of Colorado football and New York Giants football for the league winners. That would be the leaguewinners.com. But like I said, love talking Nets. Really appreciate it.
Hope to have you on again soon, Connor. Thank you for your time,
Of course.
man.
See you, man.
All right. See you. I got Tommy here. I'm gonna bring in Tommy. I'm guessing he's got a question, my man. Tommy OG. Yeah.
Gary, what's good? What's good, brother?
What's good?
What's good? Hey, listen. I was a long time Nets fan. I don't know much. Hardly as close to basketball, like the stats wise, as you do. But like when I was a Net fan, I remember, of course, Sam Cassell, Kendall Giddle, Kerry Kittles, Jason Kidd. I remember walking at when we were at Izod Center, and we played the Cavaliers for that playoff run, and we completely, I think, lost like 0-4. Like, I'm not 100% sure on that, but like when we were the last time that we were in the playoffs with the Cavaliers, when LeBron was on the Cavaliers, I think we got swept.
So what year was that? They played it wasn't 04. When they played, they got swept by Miami.
Not
in 04. They played. So hang on. 04. No. Yeah, 04 04 was when they lost to Detroit. 05 they got swept by Miami. 06 they lost to Miami. They beat Toronto, lost to Miami, and then so that was 2007, I think.
Yeah, I don't know the exact year, but I remember walking out of that Izod Center in New Jersey and getting into some brawls, like at least 3 of them with like 4 of my friends. Like, we were so upset. And like that's the last time I've ever actually followed the Nets, because then a couple of years later they moved to Brooklyn, and I was just like, you know what I mean? Like when they played right in my next neighborhood, I grew up in Woodridge, right next to Carlstadt. It's a town over from Izod Center.
Yeah, for sure.
So when the Devils and the Nets played there, like I would get free tickets to go there. So they were my
because
team.
no one was going to. I remember going to Net games in those years. There weren't many people there. They were not packing. They were not packing out the place.
There was not many people there.
And that was 07. So that was 07 when they lost to Cleveland in the playoffs.
But when they started actually having a chance is when they got Jason Kidd and Vince Carter. Were they playing in the same era, or am I wrong?
Yeah, no. So Kidd came in 01, 02. So they had Marbury in 2000, 2001. they won 26 games. They traded Marbury for Kidd in 2001. So Kidd came 01-02. They won 52 games, won the division, went to the conference final, went to the NBA finals, and got swept by the Lakers. And then 02-03, they went back to the NBA finals and lost to San Antonio. 03-04, they lost to the Pistons in the second round, and then they kind of fell off after that. Vince Carter came in 04-05. And he got him into the playoffs 05 when Kidd got hurt, and then 06 and 07 they got back to the playoffs but couldn't get past the second round. And then Kidd left in 08, and that's the Devin Harris era, and that was the beginning of the downfall for the Nets.
You know what my downfall, bro, Gary, for the Nets was? When they had Kevin Durant, they had Jason Hardy, what's his name? The guy with the big James Harden, and they had the little guy
Kyrie Irving.
They had all three of them. They should have won multiple championships, and they completely shit all over it, man.
But I said at the time I was against bringing Harden for that reason. There's still only one basketball. Who do you want to shoot it? They traded away a lot of depth. I said it makes you worse now. It makes you worse later. Right? They traded away a lot of young players. They traded away their depth. Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert. They traded Prince as well. They traded a bunch of good role players who fit a role to get Harden. And all Harden is going to do is take shots away from either Irving or Durant. So it's like,
right.
Who do you want to take shots away? Who do you want to shoot less, Irving or Durant? Because I don't want either of those guys to shoot less.
So, Gary, you know basketball better than me. You're saying it was a bad combination having Harden and Irving on the same team because both of them were basically ball. They wanted the ball in their hands at all times.
Guys, I didn't like the combination. I thought it did more good. I understand the sex appeal in it. Like, ooh, look at this big three. I thought at the time it was a bad trade, and it turned out to be a really bad trade.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they traded Harden for Ben Simmons, and he made a bad situation worse, and here we are now.
That's when I pretty much gave up on basketball at that point. Once the Nets blew up it was like, I don't even care about basketball no more, man. Like, unfortunately, like I played basketball. I'm only 5'9". I met you. We're just like the same size. I'm 5'8"3/4. I always thought I would going to the NBA because I was fast. I could dribble. I could make layups. But little did I know, my jump shot was horrible. I couldn't play defense, and I couldn't jump. So I quickly learned I'm not going anywhere, not even going to the college level in basketball. At least in football, I could tackle low. You know what I mean? I could play Division I football, like at least because I could hit like low at the knee. But basketball, completely, like my coach was like, "You're never playing basketball. Like just stick with football, dude." He's like, he actually showed me a film of my jump shot, and like normal people, they jump off their feet and have a nice release off the basket, right? My feet never left. I jumped like a half an inch. That's how I shot the ball. That's just how I shot all my life. Like I never jumped. I never jumped into the shot. I just stood and shot it.
All right. Any last thoughts? Because I'm gonna wrap up the show, Tommy. Anything
that's
else?
It, brother. All I wanted to do is
you hopping on, my man. I appreciate
it. Dude,
I
just wanted to show you love, brother. Have a good night, okay?
You too.
Take care and God bless your show.
Thank you.
Have a good one, Gary.
Be good, my man. All right. That's all, y'all. Thank you for joining me on Nothing But Nets. We'll be back with more content later in the week. From Texas to the world, thank you and God bless.